4 strategies to survive a recession. 1. Identify ways to cut back. If you're looking to free up cash that you can recycle back into your savings account, it's always a good idea to go through your monthly expenses and identify which items are discretionary, services or items you can live without, and which items are a necessity. The discretionary items are most likely ones that you can either eliminate now or in the future. Experts typically recommend spending no more than 30% of your net income, that is, earnings after taxes, on discretionary items. It's a good idea to create a monthly budget to ensure that you're living within your means and not overspending. Doing so when the economy is strong could help set you up for success during bad economic times. You have to pay your rent, you have to pay your car insurance, you have to eat to live. Your groceries, your utilities, those are all going to be essential expenses, Anastasio says. But dining out, vacations, cable, anything that you would potentially consider a luxury or a lifestyle expense, that's discretionary spending. 2. Don't make knee-jerk reactions with your investments. A downturn might seem synonymous with a plunging stock market since companies often find it hard to hire, expand and invest when times are tough. Even worse, they might decide to start laying workers off. But changing your strategy during a recession would be the worst thing you could do, McBride says. That goes for all individuals, whether they're 20 or just 2 years away from retiring. It will take a tough stomach because in a recession a stock market will easily fall 30 to 40%, peak to trough, but making regular contributions and reinvesting all of the distributions will make those market gyrations work to your benefit, McBride says. A recession is a tremendous buying opportunity. If you're planning to retire in the next few years, consider having your first few years of withdrawals already on hand, in cash. But even then, don't shy away from keeping equities in your portfolio. Those are often where you'll get the best returns adjusted for inflation, a concern that many Americans are having to grapple with, after prices in February soared by the fastest rate in 40 years. Do not make changes that jeopardize your long-term financial security based on short-term economic events, McBride says. Even for someone who is on the cusp of retirement, retirement is going to last 25 to 30 years. A recession is going to last a year. Even so, the market doesn't always behave the way you'd expect it. After plunging nearly 31% in March 20, 2020, the S&P 500 took off like a rocket during the coronavirus pandemic, hitting 70 fresh all-time highs in 2021 alone, despite the economy being in the worst recession since the Great Depression. A large part of that was the Fed's go big or go home efforts to revive the ailing economy, which instilled confidence in investors. 3. Think about your career and earnings opportunities. To recession-proof your career, one of the best investments you can make is pursuing an education, says Tara Sinclair, an economics professor at George Washington University and a senior fellow at Indeed's hiring lab. During recessions, the unemployment rate for those with a bachelor's degree or higher is much lower than for those who have a high school education or less. About 2% of workers with a bachelor's degree or higher were unemployed in March, compared with 4% of high school graduates and 5.2% of those without a high school diploma, according to the Department of Labor. Networking and maintaining strong connections with workers in your field could also help you find new opportunities. Better yet, strengthening your skill sets and pursuing more training could make you more marketable in your field. Consumers might also be able to use today's robust labor market to their advantage. Joblessness is near a half-decade low, and employers have been looking to fill a near-record number of jobs for 13 straight months. Companies are responding to the labor shortage by boosting wages. People who switched to a new job were able to secure the highest pay gains in the year, with their wages up 5% from a year ago, compared with 3.8% for job stayers, according to the Atlanta Fed's wage growth tracker. That extra cash could be a crucial way to bolster your income at a time when consumers are losing their purchasing power at the fastest rate since 1982. That extra cash you earn could also be deposited back into your savings. Economists are always emphasizing the importance of education, Sinclair says. Even if you can't build up a financial buffer, focusing on making sure that you have some training and skills that are broadly going to be employable is really crucial. 4. Don't panic, recessions are inevitable, but they're not always as bad as the coronavirus pandemic or the Great Recession. Recession is a scary word for the Americans who've lived through two back-to-back, once-in-a-lifetime recessions, the coronavirus pandemic and the Great Recession before it. Even worse, attempting to predict downturns will set even the experts up for failure. No event illustrates that more than the coronavirus crisis. At the beginning of 2020, economists hadn't even considered that a global outbreak could wreck the U.S. economy's longest expansion on record. Though most economists would lump the two causes of recessions into supply shocks or demand shocks, each of the past 33 recessions, as tracked by the NBR Business Cycle Dating Committee, have been caused by something a little different, Sinclair says. Some people say economists exist to make weather forecasters look good, Sinclair says. The complexity of the macroeconomy is such that we haven't yet figured out a clear, causal model of how things work. We can't predict with any kind of confidence what's going to happen, particularly when things are changing dramatically. Obviously, if recessions were easily predictable and preventable, we'd expect policymakers to be doing just that. The most basic definition of a recession is a drop in output for 2 consecutive quarters. Simply put, the start of a recession is the point at which the economy is contracting, not growing. But not all downturns crater U.S. economic growth and cause double-digit unemployment. In the aftermath of a recession in the early 2000s, nationwide unemployment peaked at 6.3%. The recession before that, joblessness rose to a high of 7.8%. Taking steps to prepare your wallet for a downturn when times are good can help take away some of the stress and worry surrounding recessions. And rest assured, even if economists can't predict recessions, they almost always know when the U.S. economy is in the middle of one. I don't think there's ever a bad time to evaluate their finances and check in with themselves, Anastasio says. If someone personally feels nervous that there's change on the horizon, it's always a good time to say, what can I do personally to put myself in a stronger financial position so I can sleep better at night when the time comes?